welcome to the Movie Marker discussion about the battle for Oscars 2025. And unlike many years, the categories this year, the big categories, are really competitive. And certainly with a few of them, it's difficult to call out who is definitely going to be the winner, which is good. I think that keeps the excitement going, because usually by the time we get to the Oscars, it's pretty much known who's going to win Best Actor, Best Actress, etc. So with me tonight, we're expecting Latoya to join us shortly. But in the meantime, we have Clotilde. Hello.
Hello.
We have Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hiya.
We have Martin. Hello, Martin.
Hello.
And we have our editor, Darryl. Thank you for joining us, Darryl.
Pleasure, as always. Thanks, guys.
I know you've just come off work, so hopefully...
licking my wounds from the football as well. Martin will appreciate that more than most. So. Yeah.
I want to start by saying that the tradition in my house is that we stay up all night, we have a little bit of a party, we have some food and drink, and we watch the Oscars all the way through. And sometimes we have had... the weaklings who've come along, and by the time we get to Best Supporting Actress, they're out snoring. So, but I'm a stalwart, and I've been doing this since I was a teenager, which was a very long time ago. So I just thought it'd be good to know how each of you watches the Oscar, what you've done over the years. So starting with you, Chris.
Because of work, I don't normally tend to watch it live, but I dip in and out and then follow it the next day, and then watch a full recap on whoever's showing it. ITV this year, I think.
Yeah.
So I'll be watching that Jonathan Ross's ITV coverage tomorrow, I think. And I might stay up for a bit tonight and see how we get on.
Darryl?
It's been a mixture over the years, to be honest. It's been sort of riding solo certain years, which probably is best in particularly the year of Parasite, because I just went off like a mad thing and probably woke up my neighbours in pure joy. But yeah, we've had work sort of get-togethers in the past in previous work, and we've had sort of watch parties. Funnily enough, Mockingbird, obviously where I work, we've got one tonight, which is sold out. So, but obviously I'm going to be swanning off shortly because we've got obviously Mickey 17 with many of you tomorrow. So it's an early start for me. So yeah, it's been a sort of mix and match over the years.
Clotilde?
I tend to stay up, even if I do have work tomorrow. That's gonna be fun. But I try to stay up because it's just me, so I have to keep my reactions very quiet because everybody else in my house is sleeping. But yeah, the best one I think was in 2020, the year of Parasite, because I was in LA. So it was like the first time I didn't actually have to stay up all night. And I actually could go to a watch party in like normal daytime. So that was very special.
Nice.
And Martin, what do you get up to?
Pretty much the same as Clotilde. I'm a lone shark. I stay up because everyone in my house is asleep, so just sort of watch it quietly. Can't really. I remember in the year Michelle Yeoh won, I literally wanted to scream my house down, but I knew I couldn't because obviously everyone was asleep, so I just had to keep on the down low. But internally, I was just pumping the air.
Great stuff. And Martin, staying with you for a moment, do you think it's been a good year overall, a strong year for film, and then therefore a good award season, or not?
I think comparatively to last year, it's not been as strong. I mean, you look at last year, I think the majority of those Best Picture contenders were just like five-star films. This year, I mean, there's been some good stuff for sure. I'm Doom Part 2 fan. That was my film of the year, so that should be running away with it for me. But I think, yeah, compared to last year, it's not been as strong for me personally.
And Clotilde?
I agree with Martin. I think there's been some really good films, but it does feel like it's a lot less than last year, for example. But I do think it's quite exciting that a lot of these races was very close. I think last year we kind of pretty much knew what was happening with like actors, best picture, best director. This year it feels a bit more up in the air, which I think is quite fun. So from like an awards perspective, I think that's exciting. But yes, in terms of films, I do think it's been a little bit of a weird year.
Darryl, do you think it's a middling year? Been a middling year?
I think there's definitely still been a lag from the strikes. I think in terms of quality and the projects that are coming through. I mean, just from like general things that we have in the day job, there's a lot of sort of discussion about the latter end of this year and finally catching up by them in terms of like the wealth of releases that have at our disposal. But I think what Clotilde referenced, I think the fact that there's so many races in various categories that are unpredictable, and we genuinely can't call it. I think everyone's going to have like a particular favourite tonight. So I think there's definitely room for swerves. But so as a whole ceremony, I think it's going to be really sort of intriguing to see unfold tonight.
And Chris, great year, good year, not very good
I think
year?
it's been an interesting year because there's a lot more genre films up for Best Picture. I think last year it was pretty much biopics and kind of historical films. Whereas this year you've got horror with The Substance, you've got Dune, you've got Wicked, and so 2 musicals, I think, because Amelia Perez as well. So that's probably accidental because of the strikes, but it's interesting that it's kind of throwing some curveballs out there.
I think the films are okay. I mean, I would agree with most of you. They're around the 6 or 7 out of 10 mark for me. But I think there have been very good performances which have not made it into the top 5 for the Oscars. So I think performance-wise, it's probably been better and a better year than the films. And I'm going to come straight to the big one. I know we could save it till the end, and that is Best Film. And then I will ask each of you which categories you're particularly interested in and intrigued by. But I think Best Film is a really unusual one this year because there isn't an obvious favourite. You have Conclave in the running, you have The Brutalist, you have Honora, and I'm going to put Wicked into the frame for a potential win. It hasn't won anything big so far. But starting with you, Clotilde, give me an overview of the films and what you'd like to see win and what you think will win.
You're right. I think it's really tricky to predict. I think I've settled my predictions on Honora just to sort of play it safe. But if I could vote personally, I would vote for The Brutalist. I think I saw it back in Venice, and like ever since then, I feel like I knew straight away that it was going to be my favorite film of 2024, and it has been. But I would be happy with like most of these if they would win. I think they're good films, and I think it's quite interesting. Like if Wicked wins, for example, or The Substance, these are genres that the Oscars don't usually look at. So I think that would be quite interesting, regardless of like whether or not they're my favorite film. But I am very happy to see Nickel Boys and I'm Still Here in the nominations because I think before the nominations were announced, it felt like they couldn't even get in such a big category. And I'm very happy that they were recognized. They were some of my favorite films of last year. So I'm happy about that, regardless of how it goes tonight.
And Martin?
Yeah, broadly speaking, I would agree with Clotilde. I mean, as I said earlier, Dune Part 2 was by far and away my favorite film of last year. Absolutely adored it. The fact that it's only got 6 nominations when Part 1 got 10, I think it was, or round about that sort of figure, and got a 1-6 just feels a bit, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. But like Clotilde said, the fact that Nickel Boys got in Best Picture when it really didn't seem to have much of a chance is really something because it's a really special film.
And Chris, I don't know if you've been reading the anonymous voters, the anonymous Oscar voters, and there have been some interesting comments in there that The Brutalist was too long, that they couldn't sit through The Substance, and Honora was nice, but nothing really major. What's your thinking about, first of all, the overall list of Best Picture nominees, and then what you think is going to win?
First off, I think it's great Nickel Boys is in there, but the film it possibly ousted was Sing Sing. And in an ideal world, I think they'd have both got a nom. So it was a real shit because Sing Sing had been getting noms up to the announcement. So I think that was a surprise snub. It's like a 3 or 4 horse race, really, because I think I'm Still Here has a shot. I don't know if the others have mentioned that. And then Conclave, Brutalist, and Brutalist probably the least likely of those because you've got the SAG and BAFTA wins for the others. But yeah, it's pretty wide open, I think. Conclave maybe just because it's got the late momentum from BAFTA and SAG.
Yeah.
But I know a couple of weeks ago everyone thought Honora had it in the can because of the PGA and Directors Guild and things like that. So yeah.
I think the betting is it's got a 52% chance of winning Honora. So it's not huge. And Darryl, with your job, do you get a feel for what the public would really love to see win? And what then your views on what you're seeing from the Oscar
yeah,
list?
Absolutely. I mean, pretty much all the 3 three of the four, what we would consider the front runners, Anora, Substance, and Conclave, like we're still screening them quite heavily, which is testament to how good they all are, really. I just from general vibes, I would say Anora feels like the favourite for a lot of people tonight. I think because of the positive representation of sex workers. Mickey Madison's sort of breakout performance has really sort of captured the imagination of people, I think, just from general conversations that I've had. And that's closely followed by The Substance, the fact that horror, and I think we spoke about it before when we did the in an earlier discussion with the Golden Globes, the fact that horror's getting, this sort of spotlight and awards recognition, or at least being in contention in a big way like it is really thrilling to see, and I hope that continues, because I feel like it's been a long time coming for horror. I feel like it's probably one of the most sort of enjoyable genres and the most consistently good genres at the moment. So yeah, I think it's well overdue, as I say.
But you're going with Anora, you think?
I'm going to lean towards Anora. I think Sean Baker, and I think it's had the late momentum as well. I think the speech that he gave not too long ago about independent film and sort of, the journey that these people go on in terms of just making it and, going by without very little during, the course of what could be like 3 to 5 years, I think he said. I just feel like along with Mickey Madison's lead performance, he's really captured the imagination, I think, of voters and audiences alike. And I'd personally love to see him triumph tonight.
And just going back to each of you, whoever wants to comment on this, do you think The Substance has had this huge profile because Demi Moore is in it? Had it been an unknown cast, that it might not have been in this list of nominees?
I definitely think it's helped. I think Demi Moore, it's been built as a big sort of resurgence or comeback, whatever you want to call it, for Demi. And, the fact the performance is, terrific, along with Margaret Qualley as a great foil for her as well. I'm really glad that she's been getting some recognition here and there as well. But yeah, I think Demi's definitely elevated it, and just because, all her experience in Hollywood, and, it's been such a long time coming for her to sort of be, thrust into the sort of awards, spotlight like she has. And as we all know, Hollywood loves sort of a big sort of comeback story.
I was just about to say that exactly that, Darryl. Hollywood just loves, and the Oscars do love a good comeback story. I mean, you look at Ke Huy Quan a couple of years ago, Brendan Fraser as well, a good comeback narrative. And I think slight spoiler for Best Actress, but I think Demi Moore has it in the bag, I reckon.
I think the other thing that people, perhaps the younger people, don't realize is how big Demi Moore was in the 90s. Yeah. She was the #1 female star in the world, and she could name her prize, name her film, and so it is a great comeback. Clotilde, just coming back to something you said earlier, that you saw The Brutalist at Venice. Do you think at these big festivals, because I was at Venice as well, do you think at these big festivals you really get a feel for what is going to be really pushed during award season?
I think it's hard to say. I feel like the festival audience always has slightly different reactions, because then the conversation during festivals sort of hypes a film up a lot, like The Brutalist. And I've talked to people who've seen it like after, when it was out in cinemas, and were disappointed because the expectations were so high. And for us, what's beautiful about a festival is that you kind of walk in with no expectations. So it's a very different set of reactions, I think. But I think what is relatively helpful in terms of Oscar season or award season is the awards from the festivals. Like I think Brady Corbett won Best Director at Venice, and that's quite promising, I think. But it's always hard to say, because they're competing with different films as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, before we get on to the categories and which ones you're particularly interested in, we've lost some big names throughout the year. Very recently, of course, Gene Hackman, an absolute titan of cinema. And certainly Mississippi Burning, when I first saw that, it just seared itself into my brain. Bonnie and Clyde, looking at the older films, I love old Hollywood, and he was brilliant in Bonnie and Clyde. And a lot of people, Chris, you will know, certainly on social media, have been making the point that this is a man who never gave a bad performance. What are your memories of Gene Hackman's career?
I'm trying to think what the first film I would have seen him in. Probably Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman films, because he's obviously, for me, the Lex Luthor. I think no one else can really put a candle to that performance, and it's quite different to the comics, but obviously just on screen, that's for me the definitive take on that. French Connection's great. Just gonna go through the films because there's so many. The Firm I watched for the first time in the last couple of years. That's a great one. Royal Tenenbaums, I'm a big Wes Anderson fan as well, so that for me that's one of his best. And I think from the start to the end of his career, there's obviously a few dozen there, but I think he's always reliable, as you say. You kind of knew what you're going to get from him.
Martin, Gene Hackman, anyone else that you feel has been a great loss to cinema this year?
The big one for me was Dame Maggie Smith. I mean, that was just that was so heartbreaking because I grew up with those Harry Potter films, and I just the most perfect casting for McGonagall you could imagine. And just as outside of Harry Potter, I mean, that's what I will remember her for, but she just had the most amazing career. And yeah, she will be greatly missed.
Yeah. Clotilde?
I was also going to mention Maggie Smith. Like Martin said, I grew up with Harry Potter. She's always also been kind of like in all the films I tend to gravitate to. I think I first saw her performance in The Secret Garden, which I was obsessed with as a kid. So it always felt like she was there, if that makes sense. Yeah, that was a very big loss. And I think she also had this, that she never missed all her performances, which is fantastic.
Darryl?
Yeah, referencing the two that you've mentioned, like Gene Hackman, like I think I alluded to on social media a couple of days ago when the sad news broke. Like The Birdcage was a really informative film for me as a queer person. So, although he was an absolute shit in it, if you pardon my language, just that whole sort of inclusion and sort of challenging those sort of outdated views politically, it was a really big deal for me growing up. And Maggie Smith, as you say, obviously the Harry Potter films, I know they're a bit tarnished these days because of its creator who shall not be named by me, but the Marigold Hotel films, I have a real soft spot for them in recent years as well, like the second one particularly now, given the monologue at the end and given that she's no longer with us, it does feel particularly poignant now. So yeah.
If you haven't seen the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, her Oscar-winning performance, I mean, it is phenomenal. She is phenomenal in it, absolutely amazing. And quick word on David Lynch. I think I posted at the time, like you, Darryl, that for me, more than the films, it was Twin Peaks. I was obsessed with Twin Peaks. As we're all my friends. We used to watch it religiously. Amazing. So really some great talents lost this year. So I think the in memoriam section will be particularly poignant. So getting on to the big ones now. I know we've dealt with best film, but Chris, I'm going to start with you.
Go for it.
Which categories particularly are going to be the ones that you're looking out for tonight?
There's three actually for me that are really kind of on a knife edge. So we've got best animated film, which Flow has been really dominating up till now, but then The Wild Robot seems to have had this streak. And then people are saying Wallace and Gromit because obviously that got the BAFTA. And I wouldn't even rule out Inside Out 2 because Pixar does very well in this category historically. But I mean, that's the least likely of those to win. But it wouldn't be a complete shock. And then the other one I'm looking at is screenplay because A Real Pain seems to have suddenly got a lot of momentum there. People are saying it's not for Best Picture. That might hurt its chances, but I don't know. And then I wouldn't even rule out The Brutalist for screenplay either. So again, I think that's a three-way race with Anora. And then director, I think, is another really exciting one with Brady Corbett. Is that how you pronounce his name? Corbett? And Sean Baker, I think, are those two would be the director choices.
And who would be, if you were an Oscar voter, who would you have gone for in each of those categories?
Flow and Wild Robot, I was a huge fan of both, so I'd be happy with either of those. One screenplay, I think I'd love A Real Pain to win that actually, because it's quite a small film, and it'd be nice for Jesse Eisenberg to get that kind of recognition. Because I feel like people don't always take him seriously, but he's kind of proven there that he is a real, talent as a director and writer. And director is a tough one because they're two smaller budget films, quite art housey. So again, I think it'd be great for cinema if either of those two was to win.
So you'd be happy with either in the best director category?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, The Brutalist is such a kind of towering achievement, but I think Sean Baker's done some really great work in Anora as well.
Mm-hmm. And Martin, which categories are you particularly excited about?
I think Best Actress is the race that I feel like, as I said earlier, I feel like Demi Moore is the favorite, but I mean, Mikey Madison's win at BAFTA has really put her into the race. I feel there's still a chance she could be a spoiler to Demi Moore's Oscar, but I think that's the one that I'm keeping the most eye on, and Best Picture, which I feel like is on a knife edge.
And Martin, what about Fernanda Torres? Because there is, I think the New York Times said that they reckon she's going to take it.
I'd be very surprised if she won. I mean, I wouldn't complain because I saw the film just on Friday, and she is very, very good. But I feel like she may have just come in the race a bit too soon. I mean, I know she did win the Golden Globe, but I feel like this race has always just been Mikey Madison versus Demi Moore. I feel like Fernanda Torres may just have missed too soon.
And also, she wasn't nominated for either the BAFTA or the SAG Award.
True. Yeah, that as well.
Those are big blocks, aren't they, in the voting process? And Darryl, what are you going to be looking out for, apart from, like me, the fashion on the red carpet?
Oh, of course. Yeah, similar to you guys, to be honest. I think, Chris, I'm right with you on animation. It's so competitive this year, which is wonderful, because normally, like you say, Disney and Pixar normally run away with the thing. My personal preference would be Flow, which I watched a few days ago, and it was absolutely gorgeous. I was in bits. But again, I do have a real soft spot for the Wild Robot as well. So if it does sort of go in keeping with what we've seen up to now, I won't be too disheartened by the Wild Robot winning, but Flow would be a lovely surprise. A Memoir of a Snail, which I don't think has had much of a attention, which funnily enough, we had Adam Elliott here a few weeks ago, and he was just the most wonderful soul. Nice. And he sort of popped over from Australia doing a Q&A tour here, and he brought his little snail animation with him, which was adorable. So yeah, I'm just glad that he's getting some recognition, because he was speaking about it while he was here, and he was saying like it'll be like the longest shot in the dark if we do get a nomination. The fact that they did was beautiful body. So but yeah, just to see animation, and plus we've had so many big discussions about animation and people feeling like they dumb it down a lot. The fact it's such in rude health at the moment is just lovely. And then again, director, I think there's so much room for curveballs. Like, I wouldn't rule out Coralie either for The Substance.
I'd love that. I feel like she made such an original film, and it's just so like just sat biting with the satire. I'd love a Coralie Fajar win. I don't think it's going to happen. I feel like it's between Corbet and Baker, but that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And do you have a preference, Darryl, between Corbet and Baker?
Baker for me. Yeah, for sure. I think he's well overdue, and I think just the way he sort of grafted over the years in terms of independent film and really, found his own little space, and in terms of genre filmmaking, I would absolutely love him to top it off with a win tonight.
I feel like either of those two would be a good winner, but the thing that tips in Corbet's favor for me is The Brutalist cost $10 million. How did they make that for $10 million? It is staggering. Like the scope of that achievement, I feel like that should tip it in Corbet's favor, but I don't know. Baker did some great work. I mean, I know I'm slightly alone with this, but I despised Red Rocket. I absolutely hated that film. So then to go into Nora and be really surprised by how good it was, I was really pleased to enjoy Nora.
Did you like the Florida Project though?
I haven't seen the Florida Project. I do need to go back and watch the rest of it.
It's a goodie.
I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that one, and I think for me, Corbet just just kind of tips over towards him, because, as you say, Martin, it's such a stupendous achievement what he achieved with that budget. And I think Clotilde, you're nodding. Is that agreement?
I agree. Yeah, I'd be happy, like you guys said, if either of them won, but for me, I agree with The Brutalist being such low budget for what it is. It's incredible, and I think he really deserves it. But I'd be interested to. Any of these I think would be quite fascinating for different reasons if they won. So it's
I feel
definitely
like what could maybe count against Corbet is the whole Brutalist AI controversy.
Yeah,
that could maybe play into Oscar voters' minds when
good point.
Casting their ballot. It could be a factor. I don't know. We'll find out in a few hours.
Yeah.
And Clotilde, which categories are you particularly excited about?
I want to echo the sort of best actress is going to be very interesting, I think. I do think with the fact that it's so split between Demi Moore and Mikey Madison, Fernanda Torres might have more of a chance than I had initially thought, but it's very unlikely, I think. But I'm very happy that she got a nomination at all. I'm also similarly interested in animation as well. I love Flo, so I would be very happy to see Flo win. But I think another one that wasn't mentioned yet is international film. I think it's always an exciting one because it tends to spotlight films that aren't really mentioned in other categories. Although this year, a couple of them are, which is really good. But films like The Seed of the Secret Fig, The Girl with the Needle, I really like them. So I think whatever way it goes, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm Still Here is going to win, but it's just good to see them recognized in this category.
None of you have mentioned Best Actor. And is that because you think Adrien Brody has it in the bag, or do you think Timothée Chalamet could make that last minute sprint and win, or do you think divine intervention for Ralph Fiennes?
I mean, I would love Ralph Fiennes. I feel like he's another actor who just never misses with his performance. Like he is so consistently good throughout his entire career. I would like him or Coleman Domingo. Those are my two for Best Actor. I think Coleman Domingo, like the fact this is his second nomination in as many years, just shows what a phenomenal work he's doing. I feel like it's a matter of time before he does win an Oscar. But yeah, as you said, I do feel like Adrien Brody just has this one in the bag. I mean, it's a great performance. He's phenomenal, but yeah, I kind of want Ralph Fiennes just to get his dues, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I agree. I've been team Ralph Fiennes from the start. The thing with Adrien Brody is, obviously, no disrespect to him at all, but to me, he's like the male Hilary Swank, in that he chooses his scripts well, and he's probably going to end up with 2 Oscars, and no one is really going to remember his performances. They're not the performances, I think, that people remember years on. And it's funny that one of the other things that you may have seen from the anonymous Oscar voters is that people didn't vote for Ralph Fiennes because they thought he'd already won for Schindler's List, which is appalling.
I mean, he should have won for Schindler's List.
Yeah.
But why did these guys not do their research? That just
right.
You should know what you do your research before you're casting your ballot.
I think that was appalling, but I think the only good that comes out of it is that what a compliment to Ralph Fiennes that people assume that he did actually win for Schindler's List, which he should have done. So I think that's interesting. Best Actor, Darryl, for you, is it a done deal?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it will be Brody. I'm with Martin. I would absolutely much prefer Coleman Domingo. It's no secret that I adore Sing Sing, and I'm sad it hasn't had more sort of nods along the way. I just think it's just a beautifully nuanced performance, and just the whole message of the film in terms of what's the word, sort of replenishing yourself through the arts.
So the power of the arts is that I'm surprised that it just didn't get that Best Picture nomination, considering it's a film about the transformative, restorative power of the arts and how men who have spent years of their life locked up in prison can find new purpose and joy through the arts. It just, I don't know why I didn't get a Best Picture nomination. I really don't.
Yeah, I think particularly in the current climate, the way sort of arts funding and sort of in schools.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously with programs like that Sing Sing depicts, I think it's, it feels so much under threat. And I think a film like that, it does feel very timely. So I am quite sad that it hasn't had more sort of recognition along the way.
Clotilde, Adrien Brody, done deal, or do you think someone else could come in at the last minute?
I think this one feels pretty much cold, but because Martin mentioned the AI brutalist controversy, I think that might be the reason if he doesn't win. But I don't know, he's been winning left and right really, and I mean it's a good performance, but I also would prefer Coleman Domingo or Ralph Fiennes to win. I think for me, they sort of like their performances carried their respective movies a lot more than Brody did with The Brutalist, and I love The Brutalist, but maybe that's the one category I would not personally vote for The Brutalist in. If anybody should, kind of surprise us, it should be Coleman Domingo, because I think he deserves it, and he should finally get recognized.
I agree with you, Clotilde, but I do feel it's just a matter of time before he does
Yeah.
get the nod.
And Chris, looking at Best Actor, I noticed that when Timothée Chalamet won the SAG, that there was some surprise on the faces of the people watching, and it was almost like, oh, he's number two, as it were, if Brody doesn't get it. Was that your feel?
I thought Vines would be number two for the whole way through, but
Yeah.
because I mean, if he didn't win at BAFTA, that was kind of telling, I guess. So the fact Brody won there for me kind of sews it up a little bit because obviously Vines you'd think would do well here. He won at the London Critics Circle, but obviously that doesn't have any direct bearing on this. So I don't know. It's a shame because it would be a real travesty if it got to a point where he retired or whatever and had never won an Oscar.
Yeah.
Because I think he's too good. Obviously, there's still time, and he's still consistent. So, but same with Coleman, they're both actors who are constantly putting in amazing performances.
But does anyone think Chalamet could do it?
He probably is the second choice because of the SAG win. And I guess biopics do well at the Oscars. Rami Malek, Reese Witherspoon for Walk the Line, and a few other things. So I don't know if that. And Bob Dylan obviously is very revered.
Yeah, synonymous with American audiences. Yeah, right with Chris. I think that's probably why Chalamet's too. Yeah, compared to British audiences.
But do you think, Darryl, that people, when they're voting, just as they thought Ralph Fiennes had one, that they might think, oh well, he's too young, he's got plenty of years ahead?
Possibly it could play a factor. I mean, I think we spoke about it before with The Complete Unknown. I think because there's such a familiarity with what James Mangold did with Walk the Line, is it a case of diminishing returns? Or although I very much appreciated Chalamet's performance as Dylan, but I think just that familiarity, I think because it's been such an unpredictable year, that's probably why it sneaked into various categories at the Oscars. But I don't think it's got any real momentum in any of the categories. I think it's just going to be, it'll end up being a dud in that respect.
No one's mentioned Best Supporting Actor and Actress, and I know that Kieran Culkin has won just about everything.
Those races are just so over. Like Kieran Culkin and Zoe Saldana are going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, they wouldn't be my winners. I'd go for Guy Pearce in supporting actor because I feel like he was brilliant. And he's another actor who again has had such a good career, and the fact this is his first nomination as well just astounds me.
Is it?
Yeah, it's his first nomination.
I thought it wasn't. That's crazy.
No, it is his first nomination. And supporting actress again, like with Guy Pearce, Zoe Saldana has been brilliant. Like she's done amazing work in obviously Avatar franchise and Marvel. But I don't know. I wish she was winning an Oscar for a better film. I really do.
And she is, of course, really the lead in Emilia Perez.
That's the thing. There's a bit of category fraud really going on there because.
I mean, when I saw Emilia Perez, I just thought instantly she is going to win Best Supporting Actress. And the only thing, and I don't have any issue with her winning, the only thing I've absolutely hated about her wins is her speeches. They are just so cringeworthy, word salads. And so if I have to hear that another one tonight, I mean, that's one.
I'm afraid you're going to.
Earplugs, I think. But
Clotilde break.
Is Latoya here? No, she's not here. Clotilde, Best Supporting Actor. I confess I haven't seen A Real Pain, so I can't say whether he deserves it or not. For me, Jeremy Strong, I think, gave one of the most amazing performances of the year in any category. And I would give the award to either him or Guy Pearce, because I agree with Martin. Guy Pearce is brilliant. But Kieran Culkin, is it a deserved win all the way through that we've seen?
I actually recently caught up with A Real Pain, and I absolutely think so. I think before watching it, I was very much, like you said, Jeremy Strong. And I think Borisov also did a really good job in Anora. But as soon as I watched A Real Pain, it was like, for me, it's like he's the obvious choice. He's so good in it. And I think it's like we talked about the narrative in Hollywood. I think it's sort of like a comeback story that they really like. So I think that's going to play a part in it.
Yeah.
And I think we've covered all the main categories. Is there any smaller category that anyone has a particular interest in? That maybe score? I know score is the one that people wondered why challenges. I know Darryl, you felt very strongly that should have been in there. But is there any smaller category that any of you are particularly keen on?
Cinematography was a weird one.
I was just going to say cinematography.
Because there were quite a few omissions from that category. So Conclave wasn't in there, even though that obviously looks gorgeous. Challenges, there's some cool stuff in cinematography as well. Did Nickel Boys didn't get a cinematography nom either. So those are like three of the most creative looking films. And neither of them got a nom. So The Brutalist is probably the safe choice. But then June won for the first film. So I don't know if that gives it a boost for this one.
For me, like I would love Nosferatu to win. I feel like the cinematography in that was just so atmospheric and just haunting. Like Jarin Blaschke, what the work he's done with Robert Eggers is just astounding. I feel like if it wasn't a horror film, he'd probably be in more of a contender, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love it to happen, but I don't think it will.
Do you think Nosferatu was kind of snubbed in other categories? I haven't actually seen it yet, but when it came out, I think people were expecting it maybe to be more of an awards contender.
I mean, what did it get? It got production design, costumes, and a few others that I can't think off the top of my head. But I'd love it. I'd love it if, like The Substance, it did break the boundary and got in Best Picture, but they're not.
So overall, guys, do you think that one film will dominate tonight, or is this a year where it's going to go in different directions? And we won't know who's going to win Best Picture until really the very last award is announced.
I feel like it's going to be a sharing of the love this year. I can't see, like previous years we had Everything Everywhere All at Once and Oppenheimer winning, I think both 7 each. I'd be amazed if any one film won more than 5. I think my guess is The Brutalist might win the most for actor, cinematography, score, and director, maybe
director or screenplay.
Because I think to win Best Picture, you've got to have at least a couple of major awards behind you, and director would pretty much guarantee it if Baker didn't get that. But I think it's quite an exciting year. Darryl, do you think in that respect, because the love is going to be shared?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll be played and pulled in different directions throughout the night. I think personally it'll be a mix between Anora and The Substance in terms of the bigger categories, and then I think The Brutalist will probably get a couple of the other ones, and then I think it's just a free for all in all the other categories, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I think Anora and The Substance will be the big winners on the night personally.
Clotilde, is there? I know there's a lot of hatred for Emilia Perez on social media. Is there one that any performance or any film that you think, well, I hope that just doesn't get it? Or are you fairly okay with all of them this year?
I think, me personally, I was not a fan of A Complete Unknown. I think it's also just me struggling with biopics in general. But I would not be happy if A Complete Unknown won any of the categories that is nominated in, but especially screenplay. I thought for me the weakest thing was the screenplay. So
I feel like for A Complete Unknown you have to be a real devout Bob Dylan fan to really enjoy that film. But it's not me. I mean, it's well made. Chalamet's great. He does it really good. Personally, I think he's better in Dune Part 2 than he is in A Complete Unknown.
I agree.
I would love it if he got the nomination for Dune, but no, clearly not.
Martin, do you think Dune, they're waiting for the third one to come out?
Well, perhaps. I mean, this is so when when Denis Villeneuve didn't get in Best Director for Dune Part 1, my thought process was, oh, clearly they're going to wait until Dune Part 2, but then obviously not. But I mean, yeah, I think Dune Messiah is his next film, from what I understand. So hopefully, I mean, if it's as good as Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2, then hopefully it should be a slam dunk for him. I mean, he's my favorite director. I love his work. I think he's astounding in what he's done over the last few years. So I'd love to see him get his flowers, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, what he's competing with when Doom Messiah finally comes out.
And finally, I think we're not going to get to Latoya today. Wicked, I think, is the highest grossing of all the films nominated. And I know, Darryl, I've raised this issue on social media, that the films that make the most money, like Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy, I know it's an established franchise, it's much beloved, etc., but made more in its opening week than most of these awards nominees have made in their entire run. So just a general question for all of you. Is there a real disconnect between awards bodies and the public? Certainly over the last few years. And does it matter?
Ooh, I'll lead on that one. I think the disconnect stems from various factors. I think because of the way UK distribution is. I think by the time these films arrive, they feel so staggered, and there's no real momentum to a lot of them. Especially, I think in particular cases with animation and foreign film, they all just sort of get dumped at the latter end of award season in the UK, and then you don't really feel like there's a proper connection. Like, I think all the talk about Fernanda Torres, particularly with I'm Still Here, it's only in like the last sort of week or two with the film coming out that you feel like, oh, she might actually sneak in and win Best Actress. So I think that does play a significant part, just because of the way we receive these films at the moment.
I mean, the fact that Flow hasn't even been released here, technically.
Yeah,
it's not out till March 21st. I haven't had a chance to see it. I've been desperate to see it because, it just hasn't been released.
Clotilde, any thoughts on the public versus the award?
Yeah, I think what Darryl said about release dates is definitely plays a part into it. And also for other countries. I know, like, I was talking to my family about it, and they haven't had a chance to watch most of these because they're not out in Italy at all. So it's very tricky in that sense. But I feel like it's been like this for a while now.
Yeah.
Maybe last year was a bit different because Oppenheimer did it quite well. But I would think that the film that does best in terms of like money and budget is not necessarily the best film always. I think there are films that are meant for a wider public, and there are films that are not. And perhaps those films are more liked amongst the voters, but I'm not sure why. I think it's quite fascinating.
And Chris, just looking at something like Wicked, it's going to bring in the audience, isn't it, for the Oscars, hopefully, because you've got the Ariana Grande fans, you've got the Wicked fans, you've got the musical fans. And so I think the Oscars is trying very hard to be balanced. Do you get that feel or not?
Yeah, I think it also feels like there's less streaming films up for awards this year as well. Obviously, we've got Emilia Perez, but there's very little else from Apple, Amazon, Netflix. Whereas in previous years, you've had The Irishman, Killers of the Flower Moon last year, Maestro leading the noms, and obviously they get effectively no cinema numbers. So in a sense, it's good that the films are theatrical releases. And we have had, Avatar, getting a kind of noms a couple of years ago, and that grossed $2 billion. Barbie last year, Top Gun Maverick. So it's not like the big films don't get recognition. It just maybe feels like there's fewer of them this year. But Dune and Wicked still both grossed like $750 million. So it's not like they're small films, And I think
they're still going.
Yeah, and if you look at it on a budget to gross ratio, the films minus Nickel Boys have all made an astounding profit. So, and a lot of them have only had limited releases. So I think if they were given wider releases, they'd maybe do better as well. Like Conclave's grossed 100 million off a 20 million budget, and A Complete Unknown's done well. So there is a connect in some ways and a disconnect in others, I think.
I think A Complete Unknown and Conclave have gone over 100 million, which is brilliant for their budgets. Latoya, hello, welcome. We're just about tying everything together, so I'm going to do a very quick run with you. What are your thoughts? Who's going to win? Is it going to be a given that Adrien Brody gets the Best Actor, or that Best Supporting Actress goes to Zoe and Best Supporting Actor to Kieran Culkin? What do you think?
I think at the moment it's pretty much a shoo-in for Kieran with Best Supporting Actor. He seems to have received quite a few awards so far and a lot of support at the moment. So I think that's probably what we will see tonight. And equally for Zoe as well, her performance was spectacular in the film, notwithstanding all of the other issues that have occurred since then. I do think that we'll probably see that she will be at the front of the list for that award as well.
And Latoya, nail your colours to the mast for Best Actor, because we've had a bit of a debate about whether it's definitely Adrian Brody, or whether Timothée Chalamet or Ralph Fiennes could do a last-minute sprint and take over.
Yeah, that one I think is still quite open. My initial thoughts were that it would be a definite for Adrian Brody, but now I'm seeing more support for Timothée Chalamet, and people really talking about how incredible he is being able to sing, act, and has such youthful energy, and is sign of the new generation of actors coming through. So it's
great speech.
open.
And his great speech at SAGs, which I think was a fabulous one, saying, I want to be one of the greats. And I love it when they come out and say that, rather than, this award belongs to everybody I've ever met. I mean, that's just so fake.
And he's also been marketing himself very well. Yeah. So we've seen with the Lime bike and just providing that energy and dynamic persona.
So you think it's possible that he could do it?
I think there is a possibility as well that could just be that unexpected vote that comes in, because a lot of people have been talking about his performance.
Fun fact, if he were to win, he would become the youngest Best Actor winner in history, replacing Adrian Brody, who won for The Pianist. There's like about a 10-month gap.
Yeah.
So if he were, he would be making history. But...
Yeah.
And I think if he won tonight, then he is looking at doing a Daniel Day-Lewis and winning a couple more over the years, because he's young enough. And Latoya, Best Actress, again, we've had some discussion whether Demi Moore has it in the bag or whether Honora Mikey Madison could do it.
I think the love is returning for Honora. So Mickey could steal it. I do think Demi is still a front runner. I think it's hers.
It's hers to lose.
It could be a surprise again. Okay. It just seems to be a lot of love at the moment for Honora.
Big question, guys, because we've had Mickey and Mikey this evening. So how many for Mickey Madison and how many for Mikey Madison? I thought it was Mickey.
I thought it was Mikey.
I think it's Mikey.
I change it all the time because I get confused. So.
When they announce it at awards, it's normally Mikey, right?
Okay. Right. Good
has
to know.
Has anyone heard her pronounce it herself?
That's a good point.
Actually, I don't think I have. No.
I think she says Mikey because at the SAG she introduced herself at the start. And I think
I
she said...
I think you're right.
It was Mikey. When they announced the nominations, I have a very vague memory it was Mikey. I mean, I don't know for sure.
Okay. And Latoya, the last two, which we've discussed at some length, Best Director and, of course, Best Picture.
Best Director, I think that will be Brady. I would have liked to see Coralie in there, but I think that you can't deny the scale and the ambition and just the amount of technical excellence that there is in The Brutalist. And it also just provides that memory of how Hollywood was and filming techniques used, and it's on 70 millimeters, and
VistaVision as well was very old format.
Yes, it is that nostalgia, and quite often with the awards they like that nostalgia and reminding them how good they are, and so I think Brady, and also did so well on a limited budget, and it was a dream of his for how many years, and I think that will be awarded.
And finally, Best Picture, Latoya.
Yeah, that one's so difficult still. Yes.
Is there one that you would not want to see win?
I think they're all good in their own ways. I do think at the moment it is likely to be Anora.
Mm-hmm. And is that because of the love that it seems to have got back again?
Yes, I think again there just seems to be a swing again towards Anora, and I don't know if that's after Sean Baker's speech. He gave a really good speech at the Spirit Awards, and I do think there is just so much support behind Anora at the moment.
It would be very interesting to see. Any other comments from anybody about any aspect of the Oscars? If not,
I feel like there's the whole LA fires earlier in the year. I feel like there's going to be quite a somber backdrop to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully they pay tribute to, all the bravery of the people that have battled that, and hopefully, they get their moment to pay tribute to
Yes,
LA.
absolutely.
I think almost certainly there will be a segment devoted to that, as you would expect. But I'm looking forward to, as we've said, Latoya, before you came, that we none of us feel that it's going to be one film dominating. We feel the love is going to be spread across the board, which makes it more interesting. I think.
Absolutely. I think it's certainly going to be an interesting ceremony. The predictions have all been varied. No one can quite definitively state that there will be one film categorically over another in a lot of the categories, which makes it a much more interesting ceremony to watch over the night. And especially as it's on so late here, it will just keep everyone entertained, I'm hoping.
And finally, I asked all the others how they watch the Oscars. Are you a stay up all night girl, or do you only watch it halfway through?
Quite often I tail end it, so I'll watch some of the beginning and then some of the end. Tonight, I think it will depend on just how many unusual choices there are at the start. Then I might end up staying up. But yes, well, actually, I have some Oscar serving wines to keep me company. So I have some of the wines that they'll be having tonight I have with me. So who knows? They might keep me up all night.
Right. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been really fascinating. And Darryl, I hope we can do this again next year, maybe in person.
Yeah.
With Latoya's wines with us.
We won't get past the red carpet, Rehna.
Or to be invited to one of the official watch parties, because there's a party tonight at the Dorchester.
There is, but it's for members. I think you have to be members of the Academy to be invited. So sadly not. But we can create our own.
I'll create the petition, shall I?
But Latoya, thank you for joining us. Darryl, thank you for joining us straight
Pleasure
after.
always, guys. Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Martin,
you.
Thank you for all your contributions.
Thank
Chris,
you.
thank you very much. Clotilde, thank you so much with your lovely post in the background. And happy Oscar watching tonight. And we'll all be bleary-eyed tomorrow morning then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night all.
Bye.
Bye.